A few years ago, I had Grant Cameron on the show. Grant Cameron is a UFO researcher, one of my favorites actually. And Cameron made the point that the information that came out in the New York Times about the ATIP program, basically the U.S. government working with a private company in order to study UFOs. And Luis Elizondo, when that gentleman came out and basically says, yes, this program existed. I was the guy that was running the program. And gets even more provocative than that, saying, yes, based on my scientific analysis, and keep in mind, it's more than just those videos. It's also research that we've been doing. Yes, we are being visited. Now, he said this on CNN, but the gentlemen, pilots, who were there, exposed in some of the videos that were being released, also started going on television and started saying, hey, hi, my name is so-and-so. I was in the air. I was watching this particular craft, and it was doing things that my craft couldn't do. And it was going faster in a way that my craft couldn't go. It didn't look like it came from here. You have pilots on the pages of the New York Times basically saying, yeah, we've been seeing things. Now, to be honest, this is a no-duh. Anybody that's looked into the UFO field, this is a no-duh. The U.S. government has been studying this stuff for a while. But Cameron, to go back to the original point, made the point that this was decided years in advance, that it was going to come out in this kind of way, that this information to some degree was about to hit. And it did hit. The wild part about this is, on top of the pages of the New York Times, you also had videos. The videos I mentioned before, 3 of which came out. Now, the videos, initially, the Pentagon said, those aren't ours. Later on, several months later, the Pentagon says, okay, those are ours. And then they re-released them so you could see that those indeed were the videos from the Pentagon. Those videos, again, showing reported UFOs. The Navy gets called on this. Because understand why. If you're in a situation where videos are showing your ships engaging an unidentified flying object, your airplanes engaging an unidentified flying object, don't you have to explain that? What do you tell the public? What do you tell members of Congress who thinks that they're spending $1 trillion on the military and, oh my God, these things are doing this? What do you tell Congress when Congress looks at the data and says, in order for the craft to do what these craft you say they're doing, quantum mechanics and all sorts of weird physics has to be employed to make this work? What do you understand of this? And you need to brief us and explain this to us. This gentleman, Navy guy, look at this. This is a form, Aspen form. This guy's a commander. Now he's getting asked all of these very serious questions about military, especially in the China region. But listen to somebody who asked him about UFOs.
Order and free and open Indo-Pacific that we want.
Thank you. Let's take a question from over here. Yes, right here.
Numerous senior pilots from the Navy have been reporting significant UFO activity.
You take questions on UFOs, Emerald?
There's a reporting process for that and an office that handles that. And it was happening over a pretty finite period of time several years ago. I'll leave it at that.
Let's go from the left.
First, fuck each and every person for laughing. Right there. First point. Second point. His answer was profound. Understand what just happened there. They giggled and laughed. And his answer was yes. How do you giggle and laugh if the man's answer is yes? Meaning the legitimacy is given by the answer. The laughter gets across people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Yes, they were experiencing those things. Yes, pilots encounter things that all the time that they can't necessarily explain. And often, especially when this stuff hits the papers, you have the situation now that it's become to such a degree of confirmation, which is what Grant Cameron said was going to take place. Grant Cameron said, you're not going to get disclosure, you're going to get confirmation. Well, this is confirmation. It is impossible to hide at this point. In fact, It's gotten to such a degree where the military is working with Tom DeLonge, rock star, who was instrumental in getting the information out. Tom DeLonge created an academy, to the Stars Academy. Their job is to build a spaceship and UFO technology, but also to expose the real story of the UFOs, of what's going on out in the cosmos, to the public. That's their job. The U.S. military is working with them because they're saying that they have materials from crash craft that they're going to somehow use and fashion into some kind of military or metamaterial applications. The information, the videos, wasn't the only thing that came out. Research, weird physics, the things that the military had been involved in, also came out. It was phenomenal. Popular Mechanics does an amazing rundown on the program and the information that these guys came out. I haven't even got into the weirder aspects of it. This is the stuff that has hit mainstream media. You could be skeptical of it, but understand what you're being skeptical of. The answer is, are the pilots seeing something? Clearly, yes. That is off the table as being whether or not that's true. Your only question is whether it's us or it's not us. And both of those are profound. If it is us, that means there is some kind of secret program that top secret pilots who fly our aircraft can't even identify that is so secret. You're talking about a secondary tractive technology. If it's not us, then oh my God also. And I think that one is more profound. Marco Rubio, when asked about it, made the point of saying, hopefully it's not us. I'm paraphrasing. Now, his reason for saying he hopes it's not us, because if it is us, there is some other being on this planet, some other group that has technology that is wildly beyond our own. That even though we may be able to understand and kind of come up with the physics for it and how it works and everything else, coming up with the materials, coming up with the applications, coming up with the energy production, those things are off the table in regards to what we can do on this planet. So if somebody on this planet came up with that, oh my God, we're fucked. That was his point. Right now, Donald Trump is potentially blocking language that could come out in a new NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, that would actually investigate this in a broader way and expose whatever they investigate to the public. Now, do I believe they're going to expose everything? No. But do I love the fact that they're coming up with a task force openly, clearly, in recognition that there's stuff out there that we don't necessarily know, and that the military and that the Navy and all these other entities of our military has been dealing with this stuff for years. Yes, I like that. I love the fact that that is on the table as a talking point. I love the fact that that is actually being brought up for discussion, where we are actually having Congress that are getting involved. It is the most rational thing in the world for Congress to get involved. You have all of these Republicans, all of these neocons, all of these hawks, and you hear there's something in our skies that is wildly beyond our own technology. We don't necessarily know what it is. They shut down our missile silos at one point, and they fly around our missile sites. What is a neocon going to say? Hey, we need to figure out what that is. Which is exactly what those neocons said. Meaning the moment that stuff hit the press, the moment that stuff hit mainstream news, the moment that people start talking about it, the moment that it hit the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN, the Youngsters, cacophony of information of it all at once. And all of those people that laughed and thought it was skeptical feel like assholes. They don't, but they should if they knew better. And in this very specific case, you have now a Washington that takes it seriously, because they have to take it seriously, because at this point, it's legitimate and it's real. It's fascinating. How metal is 2020 at this point, right? Where you have a Defense Authorization Act bill that is basically talking about UFOs and is having language in it to bring it out to the public. Donald Trump is standing in the way. Why is Donald Trump standing in the way? That's the most interesting question, right? Why would Donald Trump stand in the way of the cosmos being brought to the American public and being brought to the world, of investigating this particular topic? What is it called? What is it called? Skin mounted. I can't think of the name of the thing. But investigating these things, the phenomena that's associated with it, the psi phenomena that some of the pilots experience, the weird physics, the consciousness stuff that seems to be involved in the way that the interactions between pilots and the items. It is fascinating. Not to mention the technology that's involved in it. To be honest, though, what's more important, what's more interesting, is what's behind the technology. If there's anything behind the technology. right? Even if it's a drone, there's something behind the drone. The drone didn't construct itself. It just went. Is there a secondary intelligence behind whatever is out there? What is it? Is it from another planet? Is it some kind of dimensional stuff? Is it just some kind of weird phenomena that has always been on Earth? What is it? What is it? They call it UFOs. They started calling it unidentified aerial phenomena. But keep in mind, the reason that they changed it is because they want to destroy any kind of associations that are associated with UFOs and turn up crackpots. Meaning, they've damaged the UFO word. And so they have to create another word that basically means the exact same thing. It's being done for politics. It's just the associations with one. They want to break it. But nevertheless, right here. So in June, well, I saw right here. So they created a task force. Now, the old ATA program didn't really end. I don't buy for a second that the program ended. It might have created another form. It might have ended up in something else. But basically, I don't believe the program ended. When the United States wants to hide information from things like the Freedom of Information Act, what typically happens is somebody comes up with an idea. And they say, all right, we don't want the public to get their hands on this, so we're going to work with a private company. And we're going to put that information and hold that information in a private company. And there may be some program or something. You may even see the program, but you have no idea what's going on internally because most of that stuff is held elsewhere. And so if you're looking for it, you don't really see that data. That data is not necessarily available to you from the Freedom of Information Act because it is held in some kind of special program. So the fact that the information came out at all is pretty phenomenal. But then the question becomes, well, why did the information come out? Why then? Why at that moment? Now, the argument that I've heard some people make was that Hillary Clinton had an interest in UFOs. Now, this was clear. She wanted to be asked the question on the Jimmy Kimmel show. You can look at the WikiLeaks stuff. It's there. And even the books that she was holding. John Podesta was a UFO guy. He made this comment that the biggest failure in his term was not getting the UFO information out into the public. That type of stuff. So all of these people were into the UFO topic. The thought was that Clinton was going to win. And then all of a sudden, all of these videos come out. And then the New York Times articles come out. And then the CNN articles come out. And then there's enough push for Clinton to make this grand statement and say, I'm opening the books. And when she does it, Democrats win forever because she opens this new one, whatever. But I'm making the point that there is a logic to it, right? Especially if she was in line with the idea of it and you had these forces pushing, trying to get the information out. The wheels were already in motion. She loses and the information comes out. And the media and everything else consumes that information and pushes that information out, and that creates a cacophony of force. But Clinton, who the expectation, this is a hypothesis, right? Wasn't there. So the information didn't get out in the way that it was expected to get out. Either way, the data is still coming out. And Popular Mechanics has been Johnny on the spot and going down and giving kind of their detailed analysis of it. So good. But right here, the task force, the Department of Defense formed the UAPTF, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, to improve its understanding of and gain insight into the nature and origins of unidentified aerial phenomena. Pentagon spokesperson Sue Gao told Popular Mechanics at the time, quote, the mission of the task force is to detect, analyze, and catalog UAPs that could potentially pose a threat to the United States national security. In June, Intelligence Authorization Act, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence authorized appropriations for fiscal year of 2021 for the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force and supported its efforts to reveal any links the UAP have to adversarial foreign governments and threats they pose to the U.S. military assets and installations. Now, if I'm being bluntly honest, it freaks me out that the way this is, the language of this, is in the form of threats. My issue with Tom DeLonge from the beginning was this notion that the only thing he understood of this was what he got from spooks. Meaning these people who were in the intelligence, the spooks, the people who basically suppress this information, supposedly is the people who he's talking to. His understanding of this world, for the most part, is based through them. Well, if this is, if these guys basically spent a huge amount of time keeping this stuff a secret, And now they're exposing it. I think it's fair to say why. And if they're picking Tom DeLonge to do so, I also even question that, considering the company that he is keeping. So, understand my skepticism of this, or my problem with this. It's in the black. And it is so in the black that people have to accept to some degree what they're being told. And they have no way to verify it one way or the other. That makes me extraordinarily skeptical of what I'm being told on this particular topic. And so, yeah, I have qualms. Do you honestly believe or trust people in your government, senators, congressmen, these, greedy grifters, to actually give you true and factual information about something that, you can't necessarily touch yourself? No, I don't. I can't even give you true information about things that are going on here. And so I am, I have my qualms to some degree about this, because I think this can go pretty dystopian. I mean, think about the technology that these guys can develop. If, studying the physics and everything else, and do you think that technology would be used in your best interest or for issues of defense? And the fact that this is basically a military project at this point, and looking at this particular program here, all of this stuff is spoken in terms of threat, assets, military, attack. Yeah, that freaks me out, to put it mildly. Freaks me out. The IAA, the Select Committee on Intelligence, says it remains concerned that there is no unified comprehensive process within the federal government for collecting and analyzing intelligence on UAPs despite the potential threat, and to its directed the task force to report its findings on the UAP, including observed airborne objects that have not been identified within 180 days. Here's the catch. That's awesome, I suppose. Even though, again, it can get pretty dystopian depending on who's in Congress, who's in office, how they accept that. Meaning, for example, what if they receive something and you come back and saying, hey, that thing that we don't necessarily know what it is could be pretty dangerous. So we need to put a weapons platform that's just sits up there and it floats above, the atmosphere that can drop kinetic weapons on any particular place on the planet. And we're going to do that because we need to protect ourselves from whatever the fuck that is up there. Do you really put that past a political leader or political actor? You realize John F. Kennedy, people who they love, call him royalty in the United States, used the missile gap as an excuse and a reason to get in office. And use that to attack the Soviet Union. Oh, we have a missile gap. We have a missile gap. There was no missile gap. Nowhere near a missile gap. Yes, they use this notion of bellicosity in order to increase their own aims. When Obama says Venezuela is a national security risk, is Venezuela really a national security risk? Or is Obama lying for some of political effect? I'm just saying, be careful. This is, this stuff gets into... My feeling is, I would prefer us to be a little bit more grown up. And I'm talking about myself included. As a society in the world in dealing with something like that. And we can't even get people to put on masks without that being an issue and contention. And so, look, it's 2020. Buckle up. It could get weird. But in this very specific case, Donald Trump is blocking it. The reason that Donald Trump is blocking it is because there is bipartisan legislation, and I probably should have said this at first, but there's bipartisan legislation in the bill that gets rid of Confederate named bases. Donald Trump is against them removing the federally named bases right here. President Donald Trump says he'll veto the 2021 National Defense Authorization Act, the annual bill that sets the budget and policies for the U.S. military, if lawmakers don't remove the bipartisan amendment to rename military bases named after Confederate leaders, according to NBC report. We get the chance. I mean, within my memory, living memory, for the federal government to acknowledge, A, there's something in our skies, B, we don't know what those things are, C, we can't claim them as our own, which is important, right? If you have some kind of secret program that's running outside of our ASHAT, some kind of black project, oh, we can't claim these as our own. We don't know what these are. And 4, We're going to study them. That's phenomenal. That's confirmation. Your federal government is not going to appropriate money and resources. Your military is not going to acknowledge and create a program for information to be imparted. They're not going to have these people going out on television saying, yes, this is what we were saying, and here's the data for it. They're not going to work with Academy to the Stars or To the Stars Academy using materials and whatnot. Those things don't happen if there's not acknowledgement. And I'm making the point that the Cameron is right. This is confirmation. 2020, the most metal year ever. Let's see. This is Trudy. How about a 420 on, what is that? Muse, the saga of Belhania. I don't know what that one is. Trudy, I don't know what that one is. I honestly don't know what that one is. I have to look that one up. So that is Muse, the saga of Belana. Oh, Belana. Oh, are you talking about Belana? You're talking about Star Trek. I think you're talking about Star Trek. That's awesome. I love that, Trudy. All right, I'm going to end this here. I didn't want this video to be long. And I spent way too much time going into backstory. I haven't done a UFO video in a while, and I don't know how many new people that might be on our channel that might haven't seen the UFO stuff. I have gone over this topic over the past several years pretty in depth. I only really deal with the information that could be corroborated and that could be backed up. And so I would say on that point, I tend to be one of the better sources in regards to going into the UFO stuff. If anything, that's conjecture. I pretty much say, this is conjecture, this is my own thought. But for the most part, the argument can be made and the argument can be sustained. And for the skeptics, you have a hard road to go with the mountain of evidence at this point that is there affirming that this is indeed a real, legitimate thing. What it is, fair enough, but that it is a thing. Like, share, and of course, subscribe. Thanks all.